Hello, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Shauna from Created and Made Studios, and today we are going to be testing out alcohol ink substrates. Now, the most popular substrate you're probably going to see when using alcohol ink is this one here, and it's Yupo. Now, alcohol ink is best used on non-porous surfaces. So that means something like this, which is a synthetic plastic paper. Now, Yupo is great. There's nothing wrong with it. The problem for me is because I'm not an alcohol ink artist, because I just do alcohol ink every now and again. I like to play with it. I use it with my kids as well. Yupo can be a little pricey for me. It's hard to justify $1.50 per page when I'm just kind of playing around with alcohol ink and, you know, splashing it around, having fun with it. This can be a little bit pricey. So what I wanted to do today is take a look at some other substrates to see if maybe there's something that, you know, can perform on the same level as Yupo, but may not be quite as pricey. So we're going to compare 6 items, one of them being Yupo. So that's one. We're going to look at a popular one for the budget people like myself, which is photo paper. We're going to take a look at Graphics Craft plastic. This is a stencil material. It doesn't have a name brand or anything. It's just Mylar stencil material. That's 4. This one is called Synapse. It is also a synthetic paper. And the last one we're going to look at is Alcohol Ink Cardstock by Tim Holtz. So I'm going to get these cut down to size to perform our tests, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have all of my substrates cut down to size, and I have them all sort of separated out with this masking tape. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of do a blind test. Now I'm just going to label these with letters for now, and we're going to go through our tests. I'm going to give each substrate a score for each round of testing. And at the end, I'm just going to tally it all up and see which one scored the best. So I'm just going to label this A. This one's B. E and F. Now the first thing I'm going to test is what I'm calling the one drop test. I'm going to take this fairly strong color, which is Ranger's Rosewood color, and I'm just going to drop 1 drop of this in the center. Now what I'm looking for is how the ink moves on its own with nothing else, no isopropyl, no blending solution, how it moves when it hits the substrate. Now, if I were to drop a drop of this alcohol ink on watercolor paper, it would just suck right in, because that is not the right substrate for alcohol ink, right? So I want to see how these substrates absorb, how they move, and which one will move the ink the best. So let's go in with our 1 drop. And you can see already that a couple of these have already started to branch off and spread out. So, okay. As you can see with our 6 substrates, some of them moved more than others, obviously. I'm going to give each one a score from 1 to 6, 6 being the best movement of the bunch. Now, I think the best movement is here with letter D, so I'm just going to give it a score of 6. And this one will be 5, 4, give this one 3, 2, and 1, because that one didn't really move at all. Now the next thing I want to test, we have this dark color here. I want to test the erasableness Erasability, is that a word? I don't know. But I want to see whether I can pull this color off of this substrate and get it back down to white or whatever the original color was. One of these is translucent, but I have it against a white backing. So I want to see if I can just lift the ink off and start over. Like, the reason I include this in my testing is because this is something that is important to me. I like to be able to remove the ink if I make a mistake with it. So I want to know which of these substrates will let me do that the best. So what I'm going to do is I have some 99% isopropyl alcohol. I have it in this little spray bottle, but I'm not going to spray it because all of these inks are not dry, so I feel like they'll just fly around everywhere. I am going to use a dropper. I'm going to apply it and I'm going to see which ink I can pull off. Let's start here with letter A. Just applying the isopropyl. Let's just take a swipe at this. I mean, the ink making it worse. The ink definitely moves, but one of the important places to look to see whether it's even removable is right in the original location of the drop, the original drop, right, which was here. Now, I can tell that I'm not going to be able to pick that up. So letter A doesn't really come off after the fact. So let's see how B does. I definitely see that ink moving. It's breaking up. Oh, wow. Okay. So, I mean, that disappeared pretty much. That got back down to white 100%. Let's see how C does. This is another situation like A, where the original dot is pretty obvious. So, I mean, I can keep trying with this, but some of these is going to be pretty clear that's not going to remove. So, let's go here to letter D. This is looking promising. Oh yeah, that did very well as well. And E, let's get some more isopropyl. See how E's gonna do. Oh, ooh, that is not doing well. Let's see. Huh. Yeah, the original spot where I dropped the ink is not. Yeah, that's rather ugly. Let's see about F. Are you gonna do F? How are you going to do? Oh, that looks promising too. Let's see. Why is the original spot white and nothing else is? Let's see. Okay, this is strange, but it's looking pretty good. Definitely. Okay, so, okay, let's get the lid back on this. Don't want to spill that. Let's do some rankings here. I think this one's definitely the worst. So this will be, you get 1 point, because you were terrible. I think this one is the best. I'm gonna go next best there. Next best there. I think this one, the bad, was better than this one. Okay. So the next part of the testing is I just want to see how much movement, how much coverage I can get on the substrates using a blending solution. Now, obviously, I mean, this is where the nuts and bolts of it come together. I mean, you want to be able to move the ink around. You want it to move on its own, but if it doesn't move on its own, obviously you want to be able to use something to move it around. So I'm going to see how well these perform with some inks and blending solution. Now, I'm going to do these one at a time because alcohol ink dries really quickly and I don't want it to dry before I can get a chance to move it. So let's get some blending solution on and get our 3 colors together. I'm using, that is Lemonade by Ranger, Honeycomb by Ranger, and the same color I was using before, which is the Rosewood color. Okay, so I thought I was recording, but I actually cut off this last one that you guys didn't see me do that one. But I have them all blown out and I'm ready to score them based on how easy I was able to move the inks across the substrate. And another thing is, you know, did it do weird things while I was blowing it? Did it absorb? Was it hard to move? Those are the kind of things that I'm looking at. And to be honest, these last 2 were the most difficult for me to move the ink around. It just took a lot of blowing, trying to get in every little crevice to get that ink to move. And you want to see something that's a little easier to move than that. And so I would actually give, this one was probably the worst for me. So that would be 1. I'm going to give this one a 2. I am going to probably go here with 3, 4, 5. And this one was probably the best for me, movement wise. And so the last thing that I want to test is how these will stand up to being heated. Meaning, how will they do if I use my heat tool on them? Will they warp? Will they bend? Will it melt? I would use a heat tool. I wouldn't use an embossing tool on these particular substrates just because embossing tools have very focused heat and I don't want anything you know, melting or catching fire or anything like that. So I'm going to actually heat each one of these for 60 seconds with my Ranger heated craft tool and see how they respond, whether they will warp, bend, anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so each one of these has been heated for 60 seconds, and it may be difficult for you guys to see. I'll try to get a shot from another angle, but some of these have some pretty significant warping. This one, I would say, was probably the worst. I had some tape sticking these down, so I had to pull them up from the tape, but you can see there how bent and warped that one is. So I would give that one the worst score, which is a 1. Judging from the looks of things, this is probably the second most warped, so I'm going to give that one a 2. I think this one is next. I'm going to give it a 3. It has lifting on all 4 corners, and it's just not the shape that it was before. It didn't flatten out. I did let these cool off some after they were heated, but this never flattened back out to what it was before. Let's see, which ones did I do already? 1, 2, 3. I would say this one was 4. It has a tiny bit of warping and some lifted corners. I think this one is 5, and I think this one did the best here. It is pretty much completely flat. Has a tiny bit of lifting here, but it returned back to its flattened shape. So those were the 4 tests that I wanted to run. The last number that I want to put on here is the cost, because I mean, that's what we're doing here. We're trying to see about the quality of the substrate, but also the cost of the substrate. So because all of these come in different sheet sizes, I mean, some of them are 12 by 12, some are 9 by 12, 8.5 by 11. The Tim Holtz glossy cardstock, I believe, was 4.25 by 5.5, because they all come in different sheet sizes. When I calculated the prices, I had to first calculate the price per sheet, and then I did the price per square inch. So the numbers that I'm going to be comparing are the cost per square inch for the papers. I mean, that's the only real way to compare papers that are completely different sizes. Okay, so I've calculated all of the costs per square inch for each of these substrates, and I've already added the numbers on our tally. So the one who got number 1, which means you scored the lowest, which on our scale means it was the most expensive. So they're going from number 1 being the most expensive to number 6 being the least expensive. So this one was the most expensive. Here's the second most expensive, third. Here we are with the 4th most expensive, the 5th, and the least expensive one is here. So what we're going to do now is tally up our scores and see which one had the best score, and also see which substrate correlates to the letters that I've used. Okay, so I have tallied all of our scores here, and it seems as if we have a winner and a loser for sure. So the substrate that performed the worst, according to my calculations, is letter E here. Letter E is, this is the Tim Holtz glossy cardstock. I honestly am surprised by that. But to be fair, this is the only one of the substrates other than the photo paper that is paper. You know, everything else is plastic material. Even though, I mean, but this is advertised as being for alcohol ink. So, you know, to be fair, that is the trade-off. So based on my own thoughts and opinions, the Tim Holtz glossy cardstock performed the worst. Next worst would be letter A. And letter A, ladies and gentlemen, is This is the Yupo. This is the Yupo. It is the most expensive. It was $1.50 per sheet, and you know, just based on my opinions on how it performed in each round, this was the second worst one. Coming in third on this list would be letter C, and letter C I know is the photo paper. So it was the least expensive one. That's where C got some good points. Definitely the least expensive, but you know, it does have some limitations. Photo paper does not like being heated at all. But you know, if you don't tend to heat your alcohol ink projects, then that photo paper is still a very viable option for lots of us. The thing with photo paper is, though, you use the back side. This is the back. You don't use the front. The front will just suck in all of the front side is photo paper, so it's supposed to dry quickly, be absorbed, you know, it's going to absorb the ink, and it's not going to work well for alcohol ink. So use the back. But that's the photo paper coming in third place. Okay. The next one would be, let's cross these out. We did this one, this one, this one. Letter F with 18 points. This is the Synapse paper. Now, Synapse, you probably have not heard of it. It's not a brand that you're going to find on Amazon. I got it from a website called paperworks.com. Now, Synapse would have scored a lot higher, especially in the price category, if it was on something like Amazon, because the shipping for this was very expensive. But it is a viable option. This is a thinner sheet. They come in several different thicknesses, this particular paper, but I was able to get 100 sheets for $37, but that does not take into consideration the shipping, which was a substantial amount, I believe. So I'll leave a link to where you can get this paper in the description, because I mean, it is very viable option. It comes in lots of different sizes, and you can print on it. You can do alcohol ink. Obviously, it is supposed to be you know, something that you can't rip. It performs well. It's a strong candidate. So next, coming in second place, this is the Graphics Craft Plastic. Now, honestly, this one was probably one of my favorites. It's been one of my favorites and things to use for alcohol ink for some time. It performed well on the test. It is affordable. The price is not too bad at all, and this one stood up the best to the heating. It can be heated. You can erase on it. It's a quality option for alcohol ink 100%. Now, the one who scored the best, all 6s and 5s, this is the No Name brand. Is brandless. I don't even know who makes it. Stencil material off of Amazon. This is Mylar. It is translucent. It had a lot of strong properties for alcohol ink, but you know, if you're not looking for something translucent, if you want something that is white, then the second place candidate will be the one for you. Now, Yupo comes in a translucent variety, so if you're looking to replace that, then this is a very, 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 very strong candidate. I'll leave a link to this. The thing about this is, because it is no brand, you know, the availability of it may someday be an issue. I mean, I ordered it a while ago and it's still available, but as far as availability goes, Graphics is a known quantity and can be obtained in many different places. So something else to keep in mind. But I will use this. I do use this. It is very, very good with alcohol ink. So there's all my little tests. I think that was fun. I hope that you guys learned something. I hope that you I found some good candidates for your alcohol ink usage. And if you like this video, please go ahead and leave a like, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I hope you guys have a creative day, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.